Hello, how's everybody doing? Start with Alibaba. Let me fix these blinds real quick. Just had some major light in my face. What a disaster for Alibaba. Well, I will say that the performance of the share price has been disastrous. That's for sure. Pride Machinery, do you have any thoughts about what you mean by it being a disaster? I'd love to hear from you on that front. Besides the obvious 50% decline in the stock price over the past year, that is not too great. Everybody, I hope you have your coffee, by the way, or whatever drink of choice. Not sure where you are in the world today, but I've got a little coffee at noon. I just had a workout, so still bullish on Bava. Yes. I mean, I'll say a few things about Bava. Hey, Adrian. Thanks for joining, man. So, of course, the most obvious thing with Alibaba is that the stock price has declined from, 200-ish to now it's almost down to $100 per share. However, I wouldn't say that the underlying business has changed so much to justify the price. And to me, you might talk about all the risks of the company being in China, how foreign investors don't actually own the shares; they own it through the VIE structure. There's all the flurry about the risks of delisting, and in my mind, especially for the company Alibaba, none of those risks have materially increased or decreased. I think just because DD delists from the New York Stock Exchange doesn't mean that Alibaba is at risk of delisting. I think that muddies the water, and that's just speculation on potential reason why the price has declined so sharply lately. Didi was basically asked by the Chinese government to not go public in the first place, and because of data privacy issues, and it seems like that's coming to bite them. In no way do I see Alibaba under that same strain. Of course, I'm no expert. That's just sort of how I'm reading the situation right now. As for operating results lately, the last quarter was a bit disappointing. However, it comes up against really tough comps from the coronavirus, where I would bet that a lot of e-commerce demand was pulled forward by several quarters, if not years. So it was disappointing to compare it to year-over-year growth or whatever. And management was pretty clear that they're continuing to invest. So a company like Alibaba has the power and will continue to have the free cash flow to invest in their growth. So those are some of my thoughts. Now, as far as what I'm going to do with my shares, well, I'd love to hear from you all if you guys own shares in Alibaba, what you're all thinking of doing. But for me, I haven't touched it. I'm going to come back in a few years, maybe take a look. I try. I don't know if any of you suffer from this issue. Let me know if you do, please. But I do find that I'm on Twitter a little bit more frequently than I'd like to, and that seems to be orienting me to more panic than I'm prone to, just because there's a lot of sensationalism on Twitter, and that's one of the things that I'm going to cut back, because I keep seeing flashing you know, run for the hills Alibaba investors. And then on the extreme side, on the other side, I'm seeing investors who are basically putting their entire portfolio in Alibaba. And neither of those are my mode of operation. And so it's probably best to just ignore the signal. And there are a few good Chinese analysts that I really like to follow. Ray Ma and Lillian Li and Michael Norris are some great Twitter accounts. I could post their accounts in the chat if you're all interested in following some really top quality Chinese analysis. And I think all of them have skin in the game as far as Alibaba. I think Lillian Li has for sure said that she owns Alibaba, but the other two, I'm not certain about. Pride Machinery, they never announce any good news, only bad news. They don't make investors comfortable too long. 5 years, that is crazy. Do you mean that waiting 5 years to see an outcome in an investment is crazy? That's fine. I mean, I don't deem it as crazy, but if it doesn't work for you, then I would certainly not. I'll think that way. That's just the way I think. I'm okay with it. They don't make, as far as making investors feel comfortable, they could be doing a better job of that, because it's pretty clear. I mean, if we're going by the latest quarter's results, which again, going by a single quarter to determine the future of a business is pretty boneheaded move, if you ask me. We can see that the revenue mix for the business is changing, and that was something that I've been expecting with the business. The e-commerce business, there's no possible way that it can maintain the strength as it has, and with the anti-monopolist regulation, it's certainly, I'm sure that will affect the future of that business. However, they have a lot of other ways to make money, and they have the free cash flow to basically throw things at the wall. That's sort of the whole Spawner framework, where there's no problem in continuing to invest. I don't know if you can hear that my dog is drinking out of his water bowl. They're going to continue to invest in things like cloud, make investments in other companies. So yeah, I can't predict the future, but I'm confident that management is going to be able to navigate these seas, just as they have basically since inception of the company. But I agree, it is only bad news. It is only bad news. Jamie says, there's a 5-year window when I invested. The question for me has become exposure, not quality of investment. The price doesn't really bother me. Yeah, Jamie, I'm kind of on the same page with you. I don't necessarily want to have 80% of my portfolio in Alibaba, even though some might call that a justified move, and I'm seeing people doing that on Twitter, for instance. But yeah, the company is basically as prosperous as a lot of countries, so I would expect country scale time movement and price movement as well. However, on the downside, we are not seeing that. So it's interesting. Yes, Sifapurdira says, Baba has become my daily exercise of stoicism, not selling. Yeah, I always think of Charlie Munger, the perfect stoic. It's become a meme at this point, the quote that if you can't handle a 50% drawdown in your investments, then you're probably not supposed to be in the game anyway. And while it is memeable at this point, it's definitely true. I didn't have the expectation or the desire for this position to go down 50%. I don't know if I'm quite 50% on my cost basis on Alibaba. I'm not sure. I don't check that religiously or anything. But yeah, that's a good point. Stoicism, if you're looking at the stock price, I'm still looking at the underlying business as best as I can. Again, I'm not an expert on Alibaba, but those are just my feelings about it. Annette got lots. Will just be very patient. Okay, I hope that works out for you, Annette. Congratulations on that. I know you've been a long-time viewer of the stream, so welcome. And Juiced says, hey CJ, what's up? Have you kept up with Nintendo at all lately? Stock is not doing too well, but the company seems to be slowly progressing towards that model I want to see. Well, funny you should ask. Let me take a quick sip of my coffee. I hope you all have a beverage of choice that you're enjoying as well. I'm having a little Nespresso pod, which is good. We spent some time. My fiance and I went down to Brazil for one of her best friend's weddings, and the groom of that wedding, his parents had an espresso machine, and I instantly fell in love. Makes me feel like I'm in the Mediterranean when I drink it. So, but anyway, Nintendo. Yeah, this morning I was reading about Nintendo, just continuing to think about that business as it goes forward. It's in a really interesting place because the Switch is an old platform, of course. Well, yeah, it's old, especially when you consider how the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox just revamped last year. But yes, not only are they increasing their recurring revenue from software, from the online memberships and the increased price of the online memberships, but the transition to digital is over quarter. Furukawa, who's the CEO, was saying it continues to increase as a total percentage of their software sales. So that's really encouraging to see because the margins on the digital downloads, of course, are huge. And as the third-party libraries grow, they take a pretty good cut. It's almost an Apple Store, an App Store kind of cut. I think they take 30% of that, and that just goes straight to the bottom line. They just have to host it on their eShop store or whatever, and allow you to download it. So that's pretty much no cost once the infrastructure is set up. So it's incredible. And also one thing that I was thinking about, and I found a Barron's article that I think was just written yesterday about it. Nintendo as an undervalued play in the metaverse. Now, yeah, this is silly. Metaverse is kind of a meme topic as well. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg has taken a lot of punches for talking about the metaverse, and then every single large company has taken a flagpole down, and they're saying we are also part of the metaverse. But I've always been of the opinion that video game companies have the biggest leg up in the metaverse discussion out of any other type of company, and none more so than Nintendo, in my view, at least from an IP perspective. So, what world do you want to live in? Okay, that's the question that I'm asking myself. If there's one virtual world that you want to go to, please tell me that it is not in the world of, if you've played Breath of the Wild, please tell me it's not there. Or for another matter, tell me it's not in the Pokemon universe. We've seen how hugely popular the augmented reality game of Pokemon Go is. Just imagine a virtual, full-on metaverse virtual reality world of Pokemon. The only concern there is that, and actually, I think Nintendo is perfectly placed there because they have such a coupling between their hardware-driven software. So they basically build hardware so that they can continue to make better games. So I think they have plenty of cash. They can dump a lot of cash into investing in a device, a competitor to maybe the Oculus or whatever it's called now, the Meta VR. I don't know. That would be very interesting to see, but yeah. Sorry, that was a ramble on Nintendo, but I love Nintendo. I want to be a shareholder of Nintendo. That's why I continue to look into the company. But there's no silver bullet for them. They could just fall back onto a bit more cyclical earnings. But yeah, we'll see. Charlie Munger is bringing everyone to the deadly boat. Yeah, you can clone the position, but you can't clone the conviction. I'd be surprised if Munger is selling anytime soon. I think being however old he is, 96, 98, however old he is, he's probably not going to live to see the end of the Alibaba position in the Daily Journal portfolio. So, yeah, I wouldn't bet against Charlie. And I know Monish Prabhai sold, but I'm not betting against Charlie Munger. So, anyway, yeah. Slowing earnings growth for the CMR grew only 3% due to regulations abolishing choose one choose one of two rule of Baba. How do you see this impacting future growth? Yeah, so the choose one of two rule is basically something that platforms like Alibaba and Tencent were doing, where you basically, as a merchant, could sign up for your Taobao shop, but you were basically prohibited from linking anything in any of the Tencent platforms on WeChat or anything like that, and vice versa. It's a good thing for competition. Yeah, it does hurt the bottom line, but I don't think that CMR growth of only 3% year over year is the main driver for that. I think there's a concern with competition for sure. There's also a concern with the well, I was just saying this earlier, the comps for last year. Now, I haven't done this yet, but it was something I was thinking about, to look at the growth from 2019 to 2020, and I'm sure the year-over-year growth for CMR was pretty ridiculous. So don't quote me on that, but I would check that out too. But I haven't looked at that yet. Has your valuations changed? They're reinvesting heavily to maintain their market share, resulting in pressure on margins. Do you see this trend continue? Yeah, I absolutely think that they're going to continue to reinvest. But I would say that even though the cloud business may not come and save Alibaba, after all, who can say? I think it's basically being discounted to zero, because right now I think the market cap is possibly a very conservative valuation for the e-commerce business, or maybe even less than the value of the e-commerce business, depending on future growth rates of that business, how far they can grow earnings and stuff. So I'll tell you this: go check out Investing with Frank's channel. He just posted a great video about valuing Alibaba as a sum of the parts, which was very interesting. But his basic conclusion is that it's possible that 5 years down the line, we might see a 20% annualized return based on some valuation work that he was doing. So that's pretty interesting. Definitely go check him out. Frank's the man. Love Frank. So Dimitri, hey, what's up, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Ramya, hello, much love from India. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you're still here. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys haven't thrown a like on the video, could you please do that for me? It helps broadcast this to more people. Potentially we could continue to grow the community here. There's a bunch of great value investing communities on YouTube, and I appreciate you being a part of this one. Dimitri, how heavy Baba on your portfolio? At a cost basis, it was maybe I don't know, 15%, maybe 20%, something like that. So yeah, it's less than that now. But I thought it was reasonable then. I think it is pretty attractive to this day, though. So yeah. Pride Machinery, what about the Wix stock Jack Dorsey loaded? Pat Dorsey, it's his boat to be like the Titanic. Yeah, I'm editing a video right now where I talk about Wix, so stay tuned for that. Pride Machinery. But prices are getting attractive. He first bought into Wix back in, I think it was late 2018. The price is still above his purchase price. So I don't think it's been a money losing proposal, but he's been adding as the price has continued to decline. So he probably didn't think he might have thought it was egregiously overvalued, but he's continuing to add as the price declines. So yeah, we'll see where Wix goes from here. But while researching various businesses, I actually have to fight my own biases. I believe every time I make the bet and begin to fight my own urge to sell, I learn more about myself. Absolutely. That truly is the beauty of this game. I think you hit the nail right on the head. Investing, while ostensibly the goal is to make money, and what I'm trying to do is gain financial freedom here, doing some investing work. I think it's worth spending the time to even eke out a few extra percentage points over the index, I think it's worth it compounded over the long term. But it's truly a test of your psychological mettle. That's truly what investing is. And if you're invested in Alibaba right now, then I'm sure you're experiencing that very same thing. Yeah, study some Stoic philosophy. I would recommend that. But yeah, the inner journey, the inner growth that investing offers us from learning about different businesses, industries, science, math, writing, English, everything you could possibly think of falls under the umbrella of investing. It's the best discipline in the world, but it also is probably the most difficult one. So yeah, no problem, Juiced. Dimitri, are you fully copycat on super investors or just picking stocks from their ideas? That's a good question. I don't blindly invest in companies. So I absolutely leverage the 13 Fs to source most of my ideas. And in fact, I think I only have one position in my portfolio that's an original. And yeah, I think it's foolish. It's foolish not to use those filters to shrink the universe. I mean, but my biggest concern with cloning and being a proponent of cloning is that some might take the term shameless cloning as the same as blindly cloning, which that's not my opinion of it. But people are free to manage their money however they want. But if I hadn't done any work to get comfortable with Alibaba, for instance, if I didn't have an inkling about what the business was doing, I would be very hurt. I'd be very concerned with the current movement in the stock price. So yeah, I think I said this earlier, but you can't clone you can clone the idea, but you can't clone the conviction. And I think that's going to keep you sane in drawdowns. So, yep. Thanks for asking. Dark Knight asks, have you looked at Terry Smith's investing framework? It's on it's on the agenda, the long to-do list for continuing to expand my horizon. But from what I can tell, I think stock compounder Brad Kalner has done some good work on Terry Smith. You might want to go check out some of his videos. But from what I can tell, Terry Smith has the Nick Sleep approach, the Warren Buffett approach, by wonderful companies, the best companies, the best of the best, even if they might look even slightly overpriced or fairly priced. And if the companies can continue to reinvest in their businesses at high rates of return, boom, you're golden. That's the superior way to invest. And I heard Monish Pabrai talking about Terry Smith. I was reading it somewhere, but he says the only thing he disagrees with Terry Smith on is the size of the bets, I think. So Terry Smith, I think he initiated a 3% position in Amazon in this most recent 13F filing that he did. And yeah, 3% is too small. 3% is too small, in my opinion. I agree with that. If you're going to put money to work, well, maybe it's the position I'm in, where I do have income coming in that I can fund my portfolio with, and I have a different Terry Smith. He might even though he's sort of known as a growth investor, a growth value investor. He's got more preservation on his mind than I do. So yeah. Okay, let's see. I think you mean Jack Dorsey with Wix, but if Jack Dorsey is also involved in Wix, then I'd that would intrigue me a lot. But I think Jack Dorsey's got a lot on his plate, as we've seen with his stepping down from his position with Twitter. So I don't know if any of you saw the the rebranding for Square. Now that Dorsey that's his main focus. They've rebranded to Block. Let me know what you think about that. I personally thought it was kind of silly, but yeah, it's emphasizing possibly a huge shift towards blockchain technology. So it'll be an interesting company to continue to watch, but I think the branding is a little silly. Yeah. Jamie, do you have any thoughts about Lampert converting shares in SRG? So I'm not too familiar with the structure of the OP units and all that. So he converted some less liquid form of ownership into a more liquid form of ownership into the common shares, I think. It's kind of hard to say. I think all we can say is that now Eddie Lampert can exit his Seritage position more easily. So now I don't know what the benefits are of him, switching from OP to SRG beyond that, to be honest. So yeah, sorry, I don't have too much more information on that, but on one hand, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Lampert start to back out a little bit of his shares, but on the other hand, maybe he needed the liquidity, for any number of things. Maybe he said in the proxy that it was undervalued. SRG at the current levels is undervalued. I'm not going to call him a liar by saying that, and I definitely don't think it's I definitely think it's undervalued as well. I agree with him there. But maybe it's the one company he needs to sell to fund something personally, or add to a more diversified investment. So yeah. Just One asks, hey, have you done any further work on Posibit? I was listening to, this is an idea from Jeremy Raper, who runs Raper Capital. He does research, and I think he runs money as well, but I'm not entirely sure. But he's popular on Twitter, and I haven't done too much work. He's done a podcast. If you just type in Jeremy Raper Posibit into YouTube, he does a podcast where he basically goes top to bottom through that the Seeking Alpha article that he wrote. I was intrigued enough to listen to the whole thing, read the article. I thought about it a little bit. Basically, it's a point of sale system for the cannabis industry. It's a very fragmented market, and my concern is that they're such a small player. There might be economy scales that other already large existing players have that can offer the same services. They can innovate in the same way Posibit is innovating, and basically just crush them. One alternative is to acquire them. The only problem is I don't know how much of my portfolio I would acquire or allocate to a position like that. I'd rather look into more companies like Nintendo. I want to be able to look into these small, special situation type companies, but I continually keep getting drawn to these companies with superior brands, superior moats, things of that nature. So yeah. But just go look for that YouTube interview with him. It'll enlighten you on some of the specifics there. Dark Knight asks, do you invest monthly from your income or save up, then wait for the opportunities? Yeah, well, it depends. Depends on the life situation, but typically it's just I try to max out my Roth IRA my personal Roth IRA. I max out my company 401k match for my work, and then just transfer money over to my brokerage account as I feel that I'm chomping at the bit to invest more money. So it's not a specific move X percentage of my salary to the brokerage account, and it also depends on if I have any savings that I need to do in life. For instance, I'm saving for a pretty big commitment later this year. The wedding bells are ringing, so that's coming down the pipe. So I'll be a little bit leaner this year, so it'll be really interesting for me because basically I haven't historically had too much of a a burden that I couldn't uh, cover with my income. So now that I'm gonna this year might be more of a I'm managing my portfolio. I can't think about any extra additions. That's sort of the way I'm approaching it. If I do have extra money that I can plop into the portfolio, that's the first place it goes. Uh, first before investing in this YouTube channel, first investing into fun nights out or whatever. This is the place that it goes. Besides any massive life changing events. So yeah. Mert asks, Rip2 Lira and Pabrai lost about 50% of his Resos gains. Yeah, the Lira has gone wild, I suppose, in a bad way. He continues to say, and he's said in the past, he doesn't care about the micro or the macro situation with Lira because the company Resos is so undervalued that it doesn't matter if it's trading in seashells. So I think there will be a certain point where the Lira might affect it, but I think a lot of the rents are collected for their warehouses. At least a lot of the rents are collected in euros, so that it's a more stable currency that they're actually dealing business with. But certainly the inflation on the lira is going to hurt that company in the short term at the very least. I don't know. Maybe they can borrow in lira, so I don't know. But yeah, I think he's still doing okay in Resos. I mean, 50% of a whatever 8x that he's had in that is still damn good. So, but yeah, Resos is not something that I've looked much more deeply into. I just keep listening to Vibrai, learning from what he tells us about it. It's still not a very accessible stock to invest in. So, what convinced me to buy Alibaba outside of Vibrai and Munger? So that was definitely the starting point. But I looked. It was a combination of business dominance, business prospects, and the according valuation for that. So I thought at the very least, the company was reasonably priced based on its e-commerce business, the sheer dominance of Taobao and Tmall. And then on top of that, we have stakes, which granted the stakes in Ant Financial, they had wasn't even being accounted for in the market price, in my opinion. We've seen that decline, but let's say that's worth, I don't know, 30 to 50, maybe 10 to 50 billion, somewhere in that range, the Ant Financial stake. They have a burgeoning cloud business that potentially could be worth more than the current market cap. I know it's tough to compare to Amazon's web service, AWS, but some people are potentially valuing that if it were a standalone company at least $500 million or $500 billion. So even if their cloud business eventually becomes, say $100 million or $100 billion business, of course there are no guarantee that can happen. Regulations in China could potentially, prevent Alibaba from, I don't know, dominating. You can only store X amount of your data with one company. You have to spread it across the load, and all of that load is going to be run through government piping. I don't know. That's just, I think the risk reward scenario here is favorable. So, Dimitri, I used to order from their buggy website, talking about AliExpress probably. Also took advice from Chinese friend who told me that 90% of review there is fake review of product. They've had a lot of, they have a whole army of people that work on fake products, fake reviews. That's a concern. I do not shop on any of the Chinese platforms, so that's one blind spot that I have. The numbers that they report, I have to take them for what they are, though. They have over 1 billion users, so it's just an incredible scale. It's that, and to a lesser, Alibaba to a lesser extent is basically an integral part of life in China, as far as I can understand, from what I've read. But WeChat is also dominant.
Just congrats getting married next year myself, and that stuff is expensive. Hey, congratulations to you too. Yeah, man, it's expensive. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity to bring two families together. So that's how I've come to terms with it, and I am excited about that. So it's a celebration. So yeah, and I'm not a lavish guy or anything. Pretty low key. But yeah, it'll be fun. Good to see family. Good to see friends. Hopefully, make it a little better than just coming and then sitting down to dinner and then dancing and then going home. Maybe try to make it a little more reflective of us as a couple. Do you know when you can take money out of a Roth IRA? Asks Ben. I think it's no. You can. What I do know is that every year you can take out the. Well, you can take. Let me rephrase this. I think a Roth IRA, you can take money out. You can take money out whenever. It's just a matter of the tax implications and penalties. So I think it's retirement age going around 55 or 65. Somewhere in there you can take it out without penalty. And at any time you can take out the principal that you put in. So say you have maybe the limit is, I don't know, $6,000 or something annually. So you can put in $6,000. If I need more cash next year for something, I can take out $6,000 in the principal without being taxed. I think that's how it works. I haven't studied the rules too much, other than the fact that I pay taxes on the money going in. I don't pay taxes on the money coming out unless I incur a penalty for removing it too early. But I don't have plans to remove it early. But yeah, something along those lines. Dimitri asks, do you know that Lilu owns less than 5% of his portfolio on Micron? No, I didn't know that. I figured the listings on Dataroma or even Ticker are not representative of his entire portfolio because he has a whole fund focused on China. But I would love to hear any more information you have about that, Dimitri. If you want to share it in the chat for us, we can talk about it, or you can DM me on Twitter or whatever. But that's interesting because the common wisdom is that he owns quite a large percentage of his portfolios in Micron. But yeah. But on the other hand, then that shows that one of the pitfalls of cloning investors. So if we had a holistic view of Lilu's entire portfolio, including the Chinese positions, we might see that he's not as concentrated of an investor as we thought. And same thing goes with it contrasts with Monish Pabrai, for instance. He's got a huge position in Micron. There are positions not listed on Ticker that are in Pabrai's portfolio. I'm sure of that. But it still makes up a large percentage of his portfolio. So yeah, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to know more. Latest brochure of Form ADV. Okay. Yeah. If that's public information, then I'd love to see that, but I won't ask you to disseminate any non-public information. As of December 31st, 2020, we managed approximately 18.6 billion in regulatory assets under management on a discretionary basis. Okay, so you're saying based on assets under management and then looking at the position in Micron, it's 5%. Okay, that's fair. We don't know how much, for instance, cash he has, but so I would like to know what the percentage of invested equities versus Micron is, but yeah, that's a good thing to point out. Thanks for that. I think let me check what I'm going to see what it says on Dataroma for Lilu for his total percentage. Sorry, I can't show the screen. I thought I had my streaming software set up. I was going to have overlays and stuff, but this is just going directly from my webcam. Next stream should hopefully be a little higher quality. Should have some showing the chat and all that. But I didn't get it working today. But yeah, so on Dataroma, it lists that his portfolio value is $1.15 billion. So clearly there's a huge chunk of his portfolio missing there. So it might even be fair to say that most of his positions are in China. So yeah, that's a good way to reframe that. Thank you. Sorry, I spent a lot of time on that, but I think that's important. Dark Knight says, people underestimate Baba. It is basically on every phone of a Chinese individual. Yeah, that's my understanding is that as well. That in WeChat, you basically run your life from there. But I'm sure there's no doubt that there is fraud on the platform. So if it's actually 90% of reviews are fake reviews of products, then that's troubling. I haven't seen any numbers for Amazon, for instance, but I would assume that there's also a bunch of, let's say, generous reviewing on Amazon as well. So it's kind of impossible to police unless you have the seller, review every single comment. Well, no, because that wouldn't work, because the the seller would be incentivized to approve all the good comments. So never mind. We'll think about that more. All right, just finished the coffee. Sadly. Sad. But I'm feeling good, so. Adrian asks, what's your take on renewables? I'm curious to know your thoughts. So renewables as in just investing in solar, nuclear, things of that nature, investing in companies that produce those, or whether I think it's good for the world. Two different questions. I think I'm not an expert, so whatever I'm about to say is just some spewing, some brain spew. But I think the costs are continuing to decrease to make it more profitable for companies. I would love to see more companies enter the space, increase competition, increase innovation, which then would lead to cheaper production. One of the really hard problems with renewables is the issue of nuclear, which I've thought a lot about this, where there's this book called by Garrett Hardin called, what is it called? Without Limits or something. Within Limits. So this is kind of an old book, but it basically describes the idea of the nuclear power plants, for instance, as this this cult entity that would happen in the future, where it would be very dangerous to run these plants. I think there's been a lot of innovation, but basically you would just have these drones running these nuclear plants, and eventually something's going to go wrong. That was basically the argument that I was under the impression of, and I had no real way to think about that. But I think that the safety innovations in nuclear seem to be growing. Bill Gates is heavily invested in that, so that's who I'm kind of looking to navigate that situation. But I think probably nuclear energy is one of the few ways to move forward with renewables. But yeah, everything's powered by oil and gas at the end of the day. Still. So I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm telling you, not an expert. What do you think, Adrian? I'd love to hear your thoughts, because you're asking the question, so you're clearly interested in it. Pride Machinery says, getting married, don't buy Alibaba. Hey, if if I were looking to pay for my wedding from my portfolio, yeah, that would not be a happy day. Dark Knight, what do I do full time? Yeah, I am a software developer, so I sit in front of the computer all day, and then I might work out, I eat dinner, come back and sit in front of the computer, read about investments. Occasionally, I play video games as well. I read a lot. I code in my free time sometimes. Yeah, I've actually been playing Halo Infinite lately. I don't want to say that I'm addicted to it, but it brings back such glorious feelings back in high school. Halo is extremely fun, and it's free to play, so that's a dangerous mix. So got to keep the mind focused on doing work on the portfolio, doing work about thinking about investments and reading. That's the first priority. But it's good to have a little bit of fun too. Adrian says 59.5 for Roth IRA is the retirement age, so you can freely withdraw at that point. So it's good. Thanks for sharing that, Adrian. But yeah, let me know what you think about renewables. Also, I want to hear your thoughts. Min asks, what are your thoughts on Semrush? So I haven't done too much. I haven't done too much extra work on Semrush. It has showed up now as a major position in Pat Dorsey's portfolio. Yeah, I have a video. If you haven't seen it, you can go check out my video on Semrush here, which is just my initial dive. But I haven't read any of their annual reports. I haven't read into yeah. So sorry. Some of these companies fall off the radar. I mean, Semrush, I love the conviction that Dorsey has in the company. He's bought a huge percentage of that company, which is great. That's Dorsey wants to be an owner of a business. I want to join Dorsey in being an owner of that business. But sort of just looking at the high level multiples for that company, just too expensive. That's honest. It's had a little bit of a drawdown, so it's getting back. Yeah. So that maybe I'll reevaluate that one. So thanks for bringing that back up on my radar. Huge insider selling. Yeah, that's good to know. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see that. It could be, but then again, you can't put too much stake on insider selling. These people have worked hard. It could be, stock options. These people worked hard. They want their payout. That's perfectly an acceptable way to go. I would be more concerned with continued dilution of shares. And most people aren't value-oriented investors. So, if you need money now, you got to sell something. And maybe delayed gratification is not what's going to work for the people that are selling. But yeah, in general, don't like to see huge insider selling. Maybe let me go to Open Insider, which is a good website to look at the insider sales. Let me see Semrush. Yeah, so Semrush, we're seeing sales from the chief strategy officer, the COO, the CEO. Yeah, it does look like huge selling. So that's certainly a red flag. Thanks for pointing that out. Maybe I won't even spend more time on it, even though Dorsey's in. But then again, maybe it's an opportunity for Dorsey to continue to build his position in that company. So we'll see. Aditya, hey, what's up with Baba? We talked about Baba at the beginning of this live stream, which is going to go live on repeat. I'm probably only going to be here for a few more minutes, so just go back and watch the first segment of this video, and you can hear kind of what we were talking about with Alibaba. Basically, though, I don't like that the price has gone down 50%. I don't think anybody likes that, but unless you deem it as a buying opportunity. So, Dark Knight, what do you think about Activision? Activision's been on my radar since I first started investing, and I should have bought it back then in 2015. I love their IP. I think people like to bash on Call of Duty. People like to bash on how old World of Warcraft is, and we continue to see sales every single year like clockwork. The fact that World of Warcraft is basically the first massive metaverse that we've seen on a scale unlike any other game. So I think they have a really strong IP. I think their leadership, it's going to be uninvestable for a lot of people until their leadership changes. Rightly so. And they treat their developers like shit, from what I've heard. So a place with major cultural issues, no matter how good the IP is, if they have nobody to produce the IP, then it doesn't matter. So I haven't really looked at the valuation for Activision, but I know firsthand how powerful that IP can be, though. So I'm very sensitive to the video game industry. It's certainly on my watch list now, and it's possible that the buying opportunity is now while there is turmoil for the management. But then again, we have to look at the growth assumptions, what the present value of the future cash flows are going to be. So I haven't looked into that personally. But I definitely deem it as a valuable investment of one's time to try to figure out that puzzle that is Activision. I was talking earlier about how Nintendo is a metaverse play. I think Activision could certainly be right there with them. So, yeah. Okay, Adrian, you got your renewables. Here we go. In regards to renewables, I totally agree. I believe eventually we'll get there, as it's not very profitable yet. No one sees the return. Once it becomes profitable, then it will attract investors. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of the things with innovation. It's very expensive at the get-go. Very expensive. I really hope it gets there. I'd love to see the day where we have solar panels able to power my house in the summer. It's just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially in Chicago, for that type of behavior until the price of solar panels gets so cheap and the battery technology gets so good at storing latent power, which, somebody to study with that might be the BYD CEO. They obviously have some insight into battery power, and you might want to study that company. What's his name? Wang Shuanfu. Yeah. Yeah, Charlie Munger reveres him as an expert in battery technology. So, yeah, you can produce the energy, but it needs to be stored somewhere as well, or else, it's not going to be as effective. But still a decade away. Yeah, that sounds right. Hopefully, it's closer than what autonomous driving is looking like it's going to be. We still look, at this point, we look a century away from autonomous driving. Nuno asks, what stocks do you suggest buying at the moment? I do not make stock recommendations, unfortunately, Nuno. But I will tell you what stocks I'm looking into right now, if that would interest you. But nothing on this channel that I say, nothing on Twitter that I say is meant to be buying advice. It's just me sharing my experience of what I've learned, what I'm thinking about. So yeah, just wanted to make that pretty clear. Don't listen to me. I'm just somebody sitting in a chair in their house talking about stocks. So, but I'm looking into. I'll give you a couple companies. Nintendo is one company that I've been investigating this company for a year about. I love the company, so I think the investment case is very interesting. You could take a look on Value Investors Club, or look at the investor Ryan O'Connor, who's done a ton of work on Nintendo and is a huge bull there. There are also plenty of bear cases. You can look at Matthew Ball. He's written a pretty good, maybe I'll do a video about some good sources for Nintendo, just because I seem to care about it. I don't know why. I'm a Nintendo fanboy. What can I say? You grow up with that stuff, man. 2, the Daily Journal Corporation. I've been doing a lot more digging into this company, and you cannot tell what's going on with the business just by looking at their financials. So I'll have a video out on that pretty soon. And yeah, those are the 2 main companies that I'm kind of digesting right now, I'd say. So maybe that'll interest you. Definitely do your own research. Do not. I haven't invested in those companies. So, if you're looking for advice like that, I cannot provide it. I'm sorry, but Yeah, no, my pleasure. My pleasure. Happy hunting. I hope you all find 1,000 baggers over the weekend, or even just find companies that are going to provide adequate returns for you to hopefully improve your financial station. That's all we can hope for. But with that, I think I've been on for about an hour, guys. So I'm going to wrap it up here. If you want to come back to this stream, it'll be posted live. Yeah, Dark Knight. I will be doing these more regularly. There've been a lot of I've been doing some traveling, and it's been up in the air because in the US we had Thanksgiving last week, so I was not at home for quite a stretch. But these will become more regular. Hopefully the quality of the stream as well will improve. So, hey Frank, hey man, you did not need to do that. Oh man, Frank with the $3 Australian, much appreciated. Asks best capital allocator: Pony Ma, Mark Zuckerberg, or Elon Musk. I'd love to hear what you think. I would say. So just think about that for a second, but I think the answer is pretty obviously Pony Ma. Pretty obviously. Yeah, somebody who can allocate capital, let's say, responsibly, and not just be a promoter, and can do it without attracting the ire of regulators and customers alike, is the best capital allocator, in my opinion. Probably has the best track record as well, by a long shot. So, well, I don't know with Tesla. They're $1 trillion company. Can you believe it? Suresh, what do you say about the future of China, or more precisely about Baba? And do I believe Baba will recover? So I talked a little bit about Alibaba at the beginning of the stream. So once this goes live, you can go back and rewatch that. Future of China, I can't really predict the macro future, but I think that the future is bright for the citizens of China. I don't know if the future is bright for investors in China, but that's a whole different topic. I'd rather the future be bright for the citizens of China than for investors. But I would wager a guess that Baba will recover. No. That, I think it's pretty ridiculous going on right now. Frank, what's your answer? Did you answer that question, by the way? Do you have a video on that? Maybe I need to go check out your channel. Oh, Frank, I saw your video this morning. 10 out of 10. Great video. I suggested it earlier in this video about valuing Alibaba on a sum of the parts basis. The investment looks pretty enticing. Giuseppe, hi, CJ from Mexico here. Hey, I am 5 minutes behind this live video. Would you buy more shares of Baba if it hits, let's say, 100 a share, or just stay put with your actual position? Right now, I'm just staying put, but I'm evaluating the situation. The cost basis for the percentage of my portfolio is right where I'm comfortable with. So it's going to take a little bit to convince myself if that's the right move or not. So I'm still evaluating, but I haven't done anything. Yeah, Suresh, the two bazookas of a Tencent. That's extremely, extremely enticing business model. Yeah, you got investing in companies that are potentially going to change the world, sort of a VC firm. And you've got investing in software that basically everybody in China uses to run their lives. I don't know what more you want. Suresh, what about Visa? I remain bullish and adding more. Yeah, I've been seeing some talk on Twitter about Visa, but it's not a company that I've really studied beyond the basics that, all payments run through Visa. It very clearly has a moat, but I don't know the dynamics of the industry well enough to really comment. So, but my my instinct is to say that I would continue to be bullish. But yeah, that's sort of unfounded. So Take that for what you will, Suresh. All right, guys, we just hit an hour. I really appreciate you all joining the live stream, tuning in. These will be more regular. We just sit here, chat. All right. I'll keep answering these. Just one. This is the last one I'll cover. So the Daily Journal case. If you type Journal Technologies court portal or anything like that, quite some contracts pop up. I actually like that, but can't get over the culture. Yep, that's one of the major red flags. Is the culture is reportedly not very good for developers in particular at Daily Journal. So yeah, if you're coming out of Stanford, are you going to go work for Google? Are you going to start your own company, or are you going to go work for Daily Journal? I think Daily Journal is at the bottom of that list, and there are many other companies that would be above it. I like a lot of things that management is doing as far as the accounting for their revenues and the contract, the requests for proposals that they're doing. That behavior is great. I think there is a little bit of stubbornness on the fact that on the side of management that they're potentially going to run into issues actually hiring and building out their product. So, and I've also heard that there is a lot of legacy code, a lot of what we call tech debt, building on top of old code, and it's really expensive to do that from a developer's time standpoint. It's really expensive to either integrate or rewrite the whole thing, and they're not going to rewrite the whole thing. So, yeah. But just one. You're right. Culture is a concern. That's definitely a concern. But the valuation is looks to be almost too good to pass up. But PayPal. Any thoughts? Sorry, Christian. Not any expert on PayPal. I know Pat Dorsey has sold more of a stake recently. Price looks extremely expensive to me. I'm sure it's a great company, but I don't know if I can justify that price to even. Well, I won't say that I wouldn't even look at it, because I think it's a good opportunity to learn about one of the more dominant businesses in America right now. But sorry, I don't have any real investment insight about PayPal. Okay, guys, before any other chats pop up, I'm gonna head out. Maybe I might check out some more Halo Infinite, like I was talking about earlier. So, I will see you all later. Thanks for watching this all, guys. It's going to be posted right after this. So if you want to hear my thoughts on Baba, go to the beginning of the posted Q&A video. Yep, Suresh, that's the plan. Absolutely. We have a lot of holidays here in this fourth quarter. So that's been kind of throwing a wrench in things, but yeah, production is going to go up. Frequency is going to go up. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. And Frank, thanks again for the $3. Really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Suresh, I see you. Thanks, man.